In today's episode, we're actually going to be investigating a question. And that question is, do we stop living when we stop progressing?
You are listening to the best and the greatest podcast in the world. Brought to you by George Carrillo and Miguel Jimenez.
If you're right next to me and we're getting mugged, George, and I feel fear and I process fear, I'm gonna put out the vibe of fear, right? And you're gonna pick up on that, like, oh shit, he's feeling fear.
But what do you mean ultimately, though?
And ultimately, I think that is the connection of life. Emotion, processed with the brain, the way that makes you feel, puts out a frequency, and people around you can pick up on that frequency. Yes. Just like this conversation.
Yeah, exactly. Yay, 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 yay! We're back here with another great episode. Let's cue in the people in here. We got Jay Mines too, straight from the 219. What's up? What's good, bro?
What's good? It's good to be back, Georgino. It's always good when we connect, man. A little sick, all that, man.
All right.
You can hear my voice raspy, man. But
Nah, no worries, bro. You know, I think it's getting to everyone right now. The weather's changing. It's getting cold again back in California. So, I mean, cold for us is what, like 50 degrees, 60, you know?
How's it been out there? 50, 60 degrees out there?
No, it's in the high 60s, 70s or so. So it's not that bad.
It's LA. It's LA.
Over there?
We're down in the 50s.
In the 50s?
We're cooling.
Over at the 50s in the 219 or what?
Yeah, man, it gets pretty chilly out here. Like, I literally had to go buy a jacket. Like, that's how bad it got. I didn't have jackets. I wasn't ready. I was used to that LA weather, you know, when I was out there. I didn't have no jackets.
Out here, it's like, you know, you don't really need a jacket, especially if you're, like, for you, you know, you're used to that cold. So coming over here, you're like, man, it's not bad. For us, it's 60 degrees. Yeah, we need a jacket, you know. So
yeah, no, I see.
All right. All right. So today we have a very interesting and very how would you describe it? Just interesting as far the topic we're going to be talking about. The question, do we stop living when we stop progressing? You know, just thinking about that question, I mean, you stop yourself, you know?
Honestly, yeah. My first response because I remember, I don't know if we were speaking on the phone or texting.
Yeah, we were texting actually.
We were texting, right? And then you sent me the quote, and at first I was like, oh, of course, easy. And then I thought about it, and I was like, wait. And then it was kind of like a stimulating question. Like, I stopped all my work even. Don't tell my boss. But I had to just real quick step back and be like, ooh. Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know what your first response to that quote is. What would you say?
Obviously, the idea at least the idea that I want us to do today is to really investigate as far as based on our experience to really tackle it, right? Investigate and analyze what it could really mean, because it could mean very different things. Depends on who's answering it. Because let's just say someone has a perfect life, which I'm pretty sure no one does. Answering this question is like, well, we're all like, that's not like whatever. Like, okay, that's an irrelevant question, you know. Versus, well, yeah, because it's like, or a person that has a perfect life, the word progressing doesn't mean anything because they're perfect, right? Versus someone that the more struggle they have, the more things that they have experienced, for them it's like, oh shit, like, damn.
There's more fine tuning going on.
Yeah, because you start thinking.
Yeah.
So to start it off, I want to first read the definition of progress, right?
Okay.
Because obviously, so the progress. There's two definitions, but the one I'm going to be talking about is, and I quote, advance or develop towards a better, more complete or modern state. So according to the internet, the World Wide Web, that's what they say progress defines. So
that's the right definition of progress. Okay.
Yeah, so the progress. So obviously we think if we put it as in progressing, you know, we're always trying to, we're pretty much developing, you know, making better, or, I mean, that's the idea, right? As you're progressing. So let's just say you're going to school, you're getting Fs or so, you know, you got to put yourself to the test. Like, you know what, I got to get C's now, or D or B's, you know. So you have to find something or a plan for you to progress, to develop, to find, you know, what is it that you're doing wrong, or, you know, the things that are the that are challenging for you to move on, you know, or to achieve better, to do better, do greater, you know?
Correct. I think the reason this is probably something difficult for me, but I'm a big believer in balance and you know, harmony and just kind of being in tune with the self and the surroundings. So if, you know, to some extent, the definition of balance is kind of reaching this neutral homeostasis state. And I feel like progress isn't necessarily that. You know, I feel like progress is always trying to push the margin, push the boundary, you know what I mean? And yet, despite the fact that I say this, you know, that I'm this person who seeks balance, I'm actively seeking progress. And so I think it's a complex, conflicting.
Yeah, because it's like for you, I think for you, the idea of progress is to not just progress in yourself, but also too as humanity, right? Other people, the people in your direct community, the people in your not just community, but the state, the country, et cetera, you know? Exactly. So that's how you're thinking. For others, progress could just mean myself, you know? It's more of a selfish take on it.
And I agree. But like beyond even the human construct balance that I'm speaking of, like balance within myself, right? Like spiritual, mental, emotional balance is key. But sometimes in the pursuit of progress, you have to kind of push yourself outside that quote unquote balance, that comfort zone. You know what I mean? Because otherwise, you're not going to progress.
So in other words, like to remain upright and steady, like stabilize or stabilization, in other words.
Right. So like, you know how you reach your balanced state in life where you're feeling yourself, everything's all good, there's nothing wrong. Typically, it's when that happens in life that you seek progress, because it's like you've kind of reached this state where you're like, okay, I've come kind of complacent with the things around me. I'm okay with that. Now I need a challenge, and that's usually when you seek progress, I think. And that's why it's hard for me, because I'm a big person on balance and you know, just kind of finding yourself and being okay with that. It's hard for me to say that you can't just seek. You're not living if you don't seek progress, because I think there's a balance aspect to it too. You don't necessarily need the progress as much. Right. I also read this quote. Because, you know, you sparked my brain. It was a stimulating question. So, you know, I started looking through. I was doing a little research. Yeah. And the quote is, you know, progress is impossible without change, right? And so, you know, you're going to ask, how is this related to the question? Which is, you know, if we stop progressing, do we stop living, right? Well, I mean, to me, it's like life is change. So as we're living, you're constantly, of course, constant shifting factors every day, right? So life is change. So in that way, it's kind of like they're all related in some direction, right? You can't avoid change in life. Life is change, right? And so if progress is impossible without change, I think there's a huge tie in all those topics.
Right. Yeah, because change is, I mean, it's to make or become different, you know. So if you have bad habits, you know, learn from them, and hopefully you're able to stay away from those bad habits, you know?
Yeah, definitely. I think the thing with this is like, it's a tough question. You know? I think this is hard because, you know, I've never thought about this before.
Okay, so let's make it a little bit easier then.
Okay.
So if we tackle back to the question, right? Do we stop living when we stop progressing? So progressing could be very difficult to like really tackle it, to see, you know, trying to understand it or give a direct definition word, like based on our experience. Because it can mean a lot of different things. You know, you brought in life, change, obviously balance, harmony within us. But now let's remember the question's asking about we stop living. So I think let's tackle the idea of what living is. Like, what does it mean to live?
Well, that's what I'm getting at. So life is change. Life is change, right? So I think it was just a very big, you know, sometimes like I said last episode, sometimes I do that. Like I'm tying together these huge thoughts and they don't really make sense at the moment. But
right.
I think it's good that you asked this actually. Now it comes together, right? So what is life, right? So life has changed for me. I think that's what it is. Because, you know, you were a kid at one point, then you were a teen, then you were halfway as adult, then you were an adult, and so on and so forth. So life is change, right? Okay. And because of that, every day is different. And so, of course, we all encounter challenges and differences in life. So because life is change, life is also progress, because with change comes challenge. We have to adjust, right? So to me, it's like you're never going to reach a point in life where you're not going to face change, right?
Okay.
You're never going to reach a point in life where change stops. And so inherently, because change never stops, we have to keep progressing. And so if life is change, then is life not also progress?
True.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you're tackling the idea, and I think just to make it easier for some of the humans out there listening to this right now, sometimes for us to understand what something means is, or let's just say you don't know what you had before until it's gone, right? So for some people, it's like, well, I want to use the example love, because it's like, let's just say, well, I don't know what love is. Well, just think about not living stop loving.
Right.
Like, stop loving your parents. Stop loving the things that you actually love, like you like to do. Stop loving everything. And you start thinking about it, you're like, holy shit, like, okay, well, you start at least tackling the basic stuff, the foundations of what love can mean, you know? So as far as progress, like what you're saying, life and change, they kind of interconnect. So if we stop changing, then you kind of stop living, because, right? Because let's just say, if you're living a life where you're just going to 9 to 5, you're not doing anything else, you're going back home, but even living that type of life, there's going to be a change, right?
Right.
Traffic changes throughout the time.
Right.
You might, you know what, Mr. Smith, this is what's going to happen with the company, so we're going to be laying off, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
So there's a lot of things going on. You know, you're like, oh, man, you know what? Paychecks are not going to be sent out until next week. So you're like, you know what, man, I only had $5 this time. I don't know if I'm going to make it for, for these things. So now, to really think, like, in your perspective, life without change is almost impossible.
Exactly. Right? Because it doesn't matter how much you routinize your life, man. Like you said, you can have the 9 to 5, and then you go to the gym right after it. You come home first, you feed your dog every day. And then you come after the gym and you make your protein shake every day. It doesn't matter how consistent that habit is, because there's too many factors outside of you that can change that. Like, for all you know, the mailman could be having a bad day that day, or the UPS guy, right? He comes through, knocks on your door, he has your package. You didn't answer the door fast enough, so he just threw the package on the ground, right? So you answer the door, you pissed off, you didn't even sign off the package, your shit's broken, right? It doesn't matter how routine your day was. There's too many shifting factors that can fuck up your day. So there's always going to be kind of a need to maybe not change, but adjust perspectives, which is a change in perspective, which is going to challenge your mind in some way. So you can choose to stress the fuck out about your broken box. Or you can choose to progress and be like, okay, I'm going to let this go, because at the end of the day, this anger is not going to solve anything. So we have opportunities, I think, for progress every day, right? And so because of that, I think we can't make the wrong choice every time these opportunities for change come up. So even if we don't think we're progressing, I think we're always progressing slowly. Maybe it's like super slow.
Right. So let's see if this works. If we agree to the question, do we stop living when we stop progressing, right? Let's just say we do agree. Now let's switch it around. Do we stop? No, wait. Let me see.
Do we stop progressing?
Yeah. Do we stop progressing? Do we stop progressing if we stop living? When we stop living? But now, see that
that's a tough question, because I mean, like, objectively speaking, or it's like you died, so yeah, you personally stopped progressing. But if you were like a person of influence, which no, even at that, because you're a family member, you're a friend, you're somebody, you mean something to someone most likely, right? So even if you die, you can't progress anymore, but someone may take something from your memory and use that towards progress too, right?
Okay, yeah, true. But now let's think. But let's think about
progress. You know, can we stop progressing? You know what I mean?
So that's what I want to switch this around a little bit. So what if we stop? Do we stop progressing if we continue living? So you're living your life, you're moving on forward, but there's no progress no more. So in other words, you hit a plateau. Is there such thing?
Oh, I see what you mean. I think there has to be, though, for individuals to because everybody gets into like a routine phase at every point. You know what I mean? Like everybody has routine phases throughout life. You know, whether it's work or school, and it feels kind of monotonous. You know, it feels kind of like I'm not really pushing. I'm not really doing anything. I'm just kind of like in the routine. But I guess what I'm saying is that on the grander scheme, even those moments, they're going to fuel you to do or not do something.
True.
So it may be slow progress, even in those plateau moments, but eventually, if you analyze the life trajectory of someone's life, there might be progress long term. Maybe that's just too optimistic. I don't know, man.
No, it's true, because it's like, I mean, progress, there's no really a time frame to progress, you know. It can't mean it's not overnight, you know. Rome wasn't built in one day overnight.
Right.
And so it's like, what kind of advice would you give to someone? Let's just say they're trying to do something, they're trying to be better. So in other words, they're trying to progress within their own life. They're trying to make some good change to better themselves, but they just can't see it.
What type of advice would we give? Would I give those people?
Yeah, what would you give them?
I think the first thing I would do as I spoke to them was break down how psychology and the brain works. Just because I don't think people really realize how powerful the brain is. And I think I say this from personal experience because I didn't realize how powerful the brain is. How influential the things you tell yourself, the way you perceive things, and what you tell yourself when you perceive things determine who you are. So if a person who can't see, you know, the progress and is slumping, to me, on the grander scheme, just indicates that they're focusing too much on the negativity, and they need to focus more on the optimistic side of life. Right. To try and really see progress, because that's the only way you get out of those other areas that are not so optimistic. Right. If that makes sense.
So I think, well, the way I like to put it, right? So we change it. If you ask me the question, that I think, well, I've been kind of thinking about this, but let's just say when you go to the gym, right? You get back home, you still drink all your supplements or whatever. You're not going to see anything. There's not going to be progress. There's not going to be any, you know, new gains or whatever, right? You do it tomorrow. You come back, you don't see anything. You keep going at it, right? And so it's like, what the fuck? What's going on, you know? But if you keep going, right, you keep going, you keep telling yourself, man, you know, I just got to keep pushing myself. I got to keep going. I know it's going to happen. Boom, 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 you know? And so obviously, it's going to happen. And it works that way too. When you go to work every single day, 9 to 5, and you come back, you feel like there's no, like a daily routine, right? But even that, I think we have to tell ourselves, like, okay, so like bringing hope in here, you know? Like, oh, I know it's going to happen. I know it's going to be better. It's going to be better, you know? Now, don't get comfortable with the idea of like, because I think within progressing or trying to change and better yourself, I think if we don't think about the actions that we're doing daily, then we're just going to hit a plateau, right? So if, in other words, we're being comfortable, right? So 9 to 5, doing that for 40, 60 years, you're comfortable. You never do anything else. You just stick there. Versus now asking those questions is just like, okay. Now, I think for us to just naturally do that, I mean, there has to be, some people could do it by themselves, you know, automatically, but some other people kind of, they need an external source, an outlet to let them know, right? Another person, you know, if it's a loved one or is it a coworker, whoever, you know? And I think whenever you're trying to progress or change to better yourself, you know, if you're stuck, I think this is where this quote comes in. Ask and it will be given to you. Seek and you will find it. Knock and the door will be open to you. Obviously, that's from Matthew 7:7 from the Bible. We're not trying to be religious here, but it's true.
Hey, we take knowledge from anything. It doesn't just have to be the Bible. It could be the Quran. It could be Buddhist teachings. If it's wisdom, it's wisdom. That's facts. That's
But it's true because it's like, you know, something a little bit about Miguel and myself, right? You know, when we tackled a company down here in Southern California when he was in LA, like, there was times where he was just simply just stuck. He's like, George, like, I know, like, bro, like, even, you would just ask us, like, bro, like, I'm fucking tired. Like, I need help, you know? And you kept doing that, which is great, you know? But it got to a point where I had a feeling where you kind of like had this, like, you were stuck this point in your life where you're just like, I don't know, you didn't want to ask, because even though you ask and people are like, no, you should do this, do that, whatever, like, you were just like, I don't know. But it's because obviously the high levels of stress, and you're just like, oh, I don't know if it's going to work, and and, you know.
Then that was a intense, chapter of our lives back in those days. Just running those deliveries. Just, oh, God. Everywhere in LA, huh? Just east. Oh, man. Yeah, man. Orange County. But it was a tough place, I think. And if we take it back to the topic, even then, though, it's like, even when I was stuck in a rut, correct? All that negativity, all the stress that was influencing me led me to the position I'm at now, correct? Because I eventually left that job because of the stress and everything that was going on.
True.
And I found a better position, right? So even when we're, quote unquote, in a rut or maybe at a plateau, which was what it felt like at the time, that'll ultimately lead to progress, right? And I think going back to your conversation right now, two things that I wanted to highlight that were important as you spoke about progress was patience. Setting goals that are long-term, because even like with anything, weight loss or learning a new habit or whatever it may be, it doesn't just come one day to the other, even though you want that instant gratification. You really need to like set long-term goals for change. True. Because it's not going to come quick. So I think that's part A of progress, is definitely knowing that it's going to take a long time, a lot of hard work and a lot of grind, right? Part B, like I said, is your perception. And I think I say this for multiple conversations and multiple layers, because I think that at its very basic definition, life does boil down to the perspective you have. So if you're seeking progress and your perspective is negative, you're not going to seek progress as efficiently as if you had a positive perspective.
Right.
Because then you're going to fail to notice the progress you're making. Even if it's losing 0.2 pounds, as opposed to looking at that like, oh, but I didn't lose 2 pounds. You could be like, I lost 2 pounds.
I like that.
So your perception is everything. That'll keep you motivated through progress. And keeping in mind that progress takes lots of time. True. If you can maintain those two concepts, that'll get you to progress. What do you think of that?
I like that, because it's like saying, let's just say someone's goal is to do 10 push-ups every single day when they wake up and then go to sleep. But they get to a point where they're just like, they keep forgetting. You're like, oh man, I forgot my 10. Whatever, I'll do it tomorrow. But as you know, obviously, I'll do it tomorrow, right? It starts to change reaction. But instead of just thinking about, oh man, I got to do 10 push-ups, just do one. Just start with one every day, every night. And as you keep going, start the habit, starts to feel normal, then, okay, I got to do 2 now. I got to go 3. So eventually, you get to the point, you finally succeed in that goal and be like, you know what? Got it. And I think, I forgot his name. I'll put it in the descriptions below. It's like, there's people, when it comes to like, when they reach success or greatness, right? Or their progress, what they have done within the progress. Because remember, I think we never stop progressing, right? So within the progress, I think that's where you have to like just stay motivated and focused, because the people at the end of their journey, if they're surprised of the results, I don't think that they have really gained anything, because it's like the same concept of winning the lottery, right? People that win the lottery are simply, how would you say, they're surprised, like, oh shit, I won, versus someone that has put in their, day in and day out, hustle, grind every single day to put in the work in. So it's like when someone tells you, let's just say, right, this podcast goes viral, where, obviously, where people want to talk to us every single day, they're booking us, whatever. And if they ask us the question, hey, Megan and George, so, like, aren't you guys surprised, like, this worked out? Like, for me, I would be like, you know what? Like, I'm not surprised. Like, we worked hard, man. It's been 5 years. Yeah. We grind for 5 years.
You know what I mean? It was something that I was thinking about earlier. I think we were having a conversation about how, our ex-boss who ran the company, we were helping the branch. We were running the LA branch. So I just want to mention it because I feel like if one day viewers, listeners do tune in, me and George ran a company, startup, completely new branch. We started it from scratch. We recruited drivers for this delivery. company deep. But
I mean,
one
quick
of my
disclaimer: we didn't
good
like
friends-
actually build the company, but we helped we helped the region of LA. You know, expand.
Exactly. Yeah, my bad. Yeah, no. I didn't build the company. My boss built the company, and this is a man who I was actually going to speak about him because of his mentality. I say man, because I felt like I was still a kid around him. Because of his perspective was so strong, man. Never took no for an answer. Strong businessman. Always found solutions. Always solution oriented. Always focused on getting things done. His goal done. And this is the thing that drove his company in the Bay Area to expand so big that it could even go to LA, right? So me and George, we're seeking ourselves, looking for ourselves. We're in LA and we get this opportunity and we take a leap and we start this. We didn't start the company. We kind of helped start the branch in LA. That's probably the best way we can say it. We helped start the branch in LA. But the reason I was even mentioning all of that was because, part of this podcast, I want, if we hopefully one day get a bunch of fellow humans listening in, I want y'all to get to know us too, because there's nothing special about us. We're human, But beyond that, just the perspective our boss had, that's what I want to discuss. It's because I feel like that's so essential for progress. And, the reason these startups that they start from nothing and then they explode, right? And then just become conglomerates. Like the reason that happens is manifestations of the person leading it, right? So for a company to be able to do that, then an individual leading the company has to be able to have that perspective to even achieve that. And having that optimistic, that solution-oriented mentality as opposed to negative mentality is so key for progress in our own lives. So if people can run entire companies, we have to be able to find the smaller progress in our own lives too. And I think it boils down to perspective so much.
True.
Personally, that's what I think.
So if we go back to the question, do we stop living when we stop progressing? I think we kind of tackled in various angles that, you kind of do. Because if you stop progressing, you stop growing, it's like, what are you going to do, I think
That's just the thing. I think that life is like composed of, phases of struggle and growth, right?
Oh, yeah. Supposed to.
Yeah. And it's tough, man, because I could see the other side of the argument too. So I was going to try to go to law school and I didn't want to take a plunge because I felt like that would add more stress to my life and that might actually hinder progress in my own personal life, like as a human being. But then it's like, technically speaking, did I not then seek progress because I didn't take the law school plunge? So I didn't technically have progress now. I was stuck in one point in life. But then is me deciding to not take that plunge because it's going to stress me out and hinder progress? It's a very complex question. So it's like, do we ever stop progressing? Because it seems to me like even when we're struggling and going through this turmoil phase in life that happens to all of us, come on, we can't lie, everybody gets hit by a plateau phase. Eventually we come out of it, I think, right?
Oh, yeah.
So is there always progress?
Yeah, it's a very interesting concept, though. I think it's all based on how you view it, how you're raised, but
kind of like your perspective towards life, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think at the bottom of everything, it's like what you tell yourself life becomes. So we literally create reality every day. So I think that if we really think about the question, though, I think we do stop living if there's no progress, because I just don't personally feel like we ever stop progressing. As long as we're breathing, I don't think we ever stop progressing.
True. You
can analyze it down to the molecule. You're getting older every day. Your body every day is seeking homeostasis because of that age, right? So every day your body's progressing to keep you alive.
Interesting.
I think life is progress, George. I think life is progress. No, yeah. This is what this conversation is leading me to conclude.
Yeah, I mean, life is progress because it's like, now, you know how you're putting the idea of life as in like living, like, breathing. But if we think about, or if we define living as doing what you do, right? As in, you're happy, you're stable, you're comfortable. It doesn't matter what stage you're at in your life, but you're comfortable, you're doing your thing. Versus, you're hitting rock bottom and, you're in depression, et cetera, et cetera. It's a different story. So now let's think about that person, right? That's depressed. That is simply just, I don't know, doesn't want to leave the room, and it's just in the dark places, right? He was fitting that dark wolf, and
yeah.
Now I don't know if you want to say he's not living, but I mean, in our point of view, right? If he just doesn't want to do anything, just because it's not what we do in our daily life, right? What if that depressed person loves being depressed, right? If we look at him, we're like, man, you know what, like, dude, like, that the saying, bro, you got to get a life, Yeah. So if we look at that person, we're like, damn, bro, like dude, what the heck is going on? But even that, within his depression, he's progressing somewhere, I don't know if he's going to if he becomes a serial killer, he progresses into that, but I don't know. It's kind of
that might be like a regression, but I mean, nonetheless, it's like downwards progress, I guess, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's that's why it's all based on perspective on the reality, right? On their reality versus our reality,
But it's like, where can you think of a scenario where you like stop progressing? Like, that's what I'm curious to know. Like, who, when, like, unless you die, right? Like, then you, like, personally at least can't make progress. But maybe you would have left some type of impact on your nieces and nephews that will allow them to progress. So there's progress in that, like I said earlier, right? But at least for personal progression, let's define it as it comes to an end when we die. Okay, because personal progress, you can't have more personal progress once you're dead, right? Your life gone, it's not gonna happen.
We should have put that ground rule in the beginning. We're like, all right, this is what living means.
That may have led to a whole other conversation, but
but it's true. I mean, it's kind of nice how we were able to, kind of brought out or like go in different places with this question.
Yeah,
because it really makes you think.
It's exactly because of the perspective we each have, right? That's why the conversation went another way, because I have another perspective. You have another perspective. You may have been thinking this podcast is going to go a whole other direction. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this, though, too. It's like me and you are intellectual individuals, but we don't always make the same connections,
No, yeah, I mean, if we did, then technically we're identical. But we're not identical. I don't think there's no such thing as two identical people, as long as it's. I mean, even clones, they're not technically identical.
True. Yeah, because you wouldn't be able to get everything right.
Yeah, it's kind of like spoiler alert for anyone that hasn't seen the Justice League.
Oh, I saw that.
When you guys see the scene of Superman coming back to life, like. That's how you know not even a clone could be identical, because that's the same person, that's the same Superman, that's the same, human, same person. They brought him back to life. Like he was even confused. Like that's why he goes all crazy and shit.
He fights off the Justice League.
Yeah.
Damn near chokes Wonder Woman, laid hands on my woman. I was gonna kill Superman. No, I'm just kidding.
Spoiler. All right, but yeah, think of anyone listening though on the real. Think about the question: how would you define it? I think if we would even get one response of someone out there, human out there, emailing back us, asking, defining what the response to the question. I would like to hear someone else's perspective. It would be kind of nice to bring in someone else, into the conversation later in the show, bringing a third party or even a fourth person in and kind of ask that question. Kind of like see what is it that their response onto it.
I definitely enjoy that. Yeah. Definitely.
But I think this episode, if y'all listening to this, it's Monday. Remember, fuck Monday mentality. So let's ask J Minds to leave us with some words of wisdom, some motivating words. I will be cueing some motivating music in the background. So you just got to do your thing, bro. As soon as you start, I'll cue the music. Get these people hyped, bro. So,
I wrote a little something for my ultimate point. I'm going to call him Miggy J Minds' ultimate point for it. Do we stop living if we stop progressing? All right, so my ultimate point is progress is impossible to stop inherently because of homeostasis and the fact that your mind and body will ultimately always adjust to life situations regardless of if you want to or not. That's who we are. To me, it's impossible to stop progress in life because you learn something every day. You progress every day. Thus, living is progress. Even in small situations that cause stress, you just have to adjust, and you eventually adjust to that too. How well you basically attain that progress, how productive you are at attaining that progress, determines how well you are living. So, you aren't living well. If you aren't living well, it's because you're ignoring these stress factors instead of proactively and personally addressing them. Personally seeking progress. If you were to instead face it head on, start to adjust little by little, make improvements towards that stress, then I think you will live a more fulfilled life. And you will truly start living. Don't ignore progress. Progress is essential. That's my ultimate conclusion.
yeah!
Unboxing the truth.
Puro fuego. Yeah, you just gotta stay motivated. Keep progressing. Keep pushing forward. You know, don't stop. Don't quit.
And don't be afraid of it. Stress sucks. It does. It makes you very uncomfortable. But you know what? You grow from every situation that makes you uncomfortable as a person because you grow comfortable to that situation. They pushing forward. Fuck Mondays.
All right. That was fire, bro. That was fire. That was fire.
I'm fucking excited to hear it back because I felt like it went very abstract for a moment, and then we like brought it back. You know what I mean?
Boom. Bloopers. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, please send your questions, comments, concerns to info@unboxingthetruth.biz. We also have our Instagram up and running. Just search us on @unboxingthetruth. Yay! Till next time. Yay! Till next time. Yay! Till next time. Yay! Till next time.